Be honest with me.
Ready.
Do you know what rape feels like?
No, I don't actually.
Well, do you want to know?
Are you saying you're gonna rape me?
Because you're heading on the right path right now. It's not rape if I like it. Is it now?
That was honestly disgusting, and I'm glad we're about to talk about it today. What's going on, everybody? Let's just jump straight into the meat and potatoes. That is streamer Taylor Morgan, who is big on TikTok, big on Twitch, streaming the game Valorant. It may have gotten lost in some of the accent, but this guy asked her, do you know how grape feels? And you know you're headed down the right path. He only says that after she says, are you saying that you're gonna grape me?
You know what rape feels like?
No, I don't actually.
Well, do you want to know?
Are you saying you're gonna rape me?
In her tweet following up that clip, she says, I have never made a more desperate plea than what I am about to say right now. Riot Game support, I need you guys to fucking do something. I am an incredibly strong person and I've been streaming for a very, very long time, but absolutely nothing prepares you for someone saying this to you. The suspensions are not enough. Nothing will ever stop these men from acting this way until hardware bans go into play. They should never be able to play this game again. I know you hear us. I know you see us. If this goes unpunished, I am taking this as an active act from you that you do not give a single fuck about any of the women and minorities that play your game, and I will rally to boycott. And what's interesting is that she showed that because she left lobby, because she backed out of the game, of course, she received some sort of penalty. They're just saying that she won't receive any XP for the game, but it's quite interesting that, of course, she receives a penalty for this, but somebody else doesn't receive a penalty for this. Now, let me start off by saying this is totally sick and disgusting behavior. We're not condoning any of that happens on video games. We're not saying that this should happen. Nobody should be approached with this, man, woman, child, you know, whatever the case may be. And to be honest with you, I can't ignore the fact that this does exist in a lot of different areas and atmospheres on the internet, whether it be in the video gaming sphere, whether it be just on a simple Twitter comment thread. Hell, it even exists in sports too. We've seen players all the time start to throw out subtle cuss words like shit or damn, but escalate that to full on calling people bitch ass niggas or, you know, any combination of the word, which honestly on the surface it seems like this, oh, this is just sports culture thing, but why are we deducing it to this is what the culture is? How did the culture of video games, sports, or any of these other male dominated spaces attach to some of the most harshest and foul language, some stuff that you would probably never say to anybody's face? The only real reason why these people are emboldened to do such actions or say such things is because there's no consequences, not any real one. We're seeing that Riot Gaming doesn't take these things seriously. The suspensions are a couple days, but honestly, if I have another PlayStation, if I have another PC, or if I have another IP address that I have access to, I can just go over there and play these things. I remember back in the day on Call of Duty lobbies when I was playing in the Modern Warfare 2 era, hell, if somebody just decided to report me in mass, then all I would do is just log into my other account. Who really cared? Unlimited email addresses, and I had access to as many accounts as I wanted to. I could just go out and say these things with no real consequences at all. But if somebody were to say these things in real life, they would be susceptible to being punched in the face or hell, ostracized from the communities in which they try to inhabit. There's no way that you can say these things IRL and not expect consequences, but because they exist on the internet, they are able to hide behind certain things. And somebody who's also tapped into the idea of me being able to say stuff without real consequences, Myron Gaines decided to put his spiel and 2 cents into the situation here. Myron says, this is why women need to stay out of male spaces or shut the fuck up. If they get bullied, women come into male spaces and want the rules to change for their feelings, which fucks everything up for everyone. Here's the equality. Feminism got you. Myron, what you're saying may be true in some regard, but in reality, these shouldn't be things that are just okay in male spaces. Saying these things, especially without consequences, shouldn't be something that is synonymous with male spaces. We should have some sort of, I don't know, cultural belief that says, hey, we shouldn't take things too far. Just because we're on a video game and we're calling it a male space doesn't mean that we should say we can grape each other. Doesn't mean we could say this person's mom is this, that, and the third. Spew racial epithets, all sorts of different things. Men have the highest suicide rate between men and women, and there's a reason why. It's because there's no outlets for them in which they are safe and which they can be heard, and when they're told to go back into male spaces, it's littered with things like this. Myron goes on to say, everyone gets shit talked online. It's an unavoidable aspect of gaming. Sack up. You claim to be an incredibly strong person and streaming for a very long time, but you got triggered and tried to force a company to do what you want as if the world revolves around you, and no one else gets insulted online. There's kids getting bombed in Gaza and women really being and you're mad that some 15-year-old basement dwelling Aussie said, "It's not grape if I like it." If a mediocre, crass joke like that offends you, turn off the camera, get off Twitch, and hang up the jersey. You're a pussy and not cut out for gaming. And in the comment section is filled with people saying, "Hey, it's much worse than COD, but we understand that it is worse, and the whole point of society is to work to a position of being better." I don't think that cursing or making these, what Myron would consider crass jokes, makes gaming inherently better. Granted, people do see these things all the time. I could be on lobbies when I'm playing 2K, and if I'm down, that's when the mic gets cut on, and all of a sudden the taunts are this word, this word. That does not make it right. And I think it's also strange that we're asking somebody to not only take it, but be a part of it, because this is the culture of it. So if you can't take it, participate in it, whatever the case may be, then you must log off and not do something that you love. I was seeing this growing sentiment on the internet of people saying that, well, she deserved it because she left him unmuted, and that was because of the clip that she had prior to the situation.
Hey gaming, bro, this guy is an asshole. The only reason I haven't wanted you to is for content.
Why we think that that's some sort of justification of any sort for her getting those types of comments are stupid. And he goes in to clarify later on that, hey, I think that these comments are bad, but that should be the main focus of the conversation, as opposed to, hey, she left him unmuted, so whatever happens, happens. That's the stupidest thing in the world. People are able to publish whatever they want, say whatever they want, but that doesn't mean that there shouldn't be consequences for their actions. I think it's a sign if you're defending these situations or her actions in this situation. And I think it's a sign when the top G chimes in and says that she's doing something wrong. And if you agree with him and his sentiments, then you're probably on the wrong side of this. Andrew Tate says, "Women join men's spaces and cry and bitch and ruin everything. Why, like babies. Men say the worst thing to each other all day and nobody cries. Easiest way to fix this problem is ban crybaby women from gaming." And of course, his little tag along brother says in the comments, "You told me to kill myself this morning. I wanted you banned from the house. My safe space has been compromised. W brother." And while we know those are commentary from people that exist only on the internet, so we should probably just ignore it, it only begs the question, how is gaming and gaming culture affecting the youth? We can see studies of the hours in gaming that are being logged are on the rise, and we're also seeing how the hours of work are supposedly declining, and that only points to young men turning to one thing, again, just more gaming and more gaming and more gaming. Now, with that being said, if we're saying that these are male spaces in which men inhabit and they identify with playing the video game, if this is a part of the culture, why are we okay with these types of jokes, this type of commentary, or this type of rhetoric being tossed around here? Now, mind you, if this was some sort of leftist, trans-identifying, LGBTQ propaganda that was being pushed on gaming, I think that they would have a problem with this as well. But because these are slurs, racial epithets, grape jokes, then they're okay with it. If we're sitting here spending hours and hours on video games and they're being socialized and conditioned to think that this is proper behavior, this has to have some sort of impact or effect on the things that happen when kids go out into the public, specifically young men. I'm looking after a little 8-year-old right now, and I can see the impact and effect that video games have on him on a day-to-day basis. Now, mind you, I can't attribute all of his actions to video gaming, but I do see specifically where some of the gaming trends are impacting his life, where maybe his mother wouldn't because she's not hip to the situation. And honestly, I don't necessarily like it. I can see when we were playing Super Smash Brothers together how vulgar he decided to get, not necessarily with cursing, but just some of the talk that he had. It was honestly very troubling to me because he didn't even realize what he was saying. He was just regurgitating the things that he saw on the internet and while playing games and being in a lobby. And sure, you might be able to make the stance, well, somebody should be sitting there moderating him and conditioning him and coaching him to say like, yo, this is not okay. You shouldn't be taking that away from this video game. But one, people don't have the time. Two, they don't have the bandwidth. And three, all these seem to be workarounds as opposed to figuring out why men or video game users feel like it's okay to make jokes like this or call people out of their names. I can't say why other than, hey, there's no consequences and you're trying to get some deep down shit that you've always wanted to get off. And I don't necessarily agree with it. We should be looking at those people and taking some sort of action. I don't think these all should just end up in just straight flat out bans. Now, if they're that extreme, then go ahead. But there has to be some sort of reprimanding for these situations. I'm all for Riot doing something here in this situation. Of course, the boycott is probably outrageous and she's probably taking it way too far. But they do have to step in somewhere and make a decision as to, hey, these are our guidelines. Or more and more people would just feel increasingly uncomfortable as we become socially aware of what's right and what's wrong.